Welcome back. Japan's ruling Liberal Democratic Party secured a sweeping victory in Sunday's upper house election, which took place just days after the shocking, senseless shooting of former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. In today's segment of Viewpoint, we revisit Seoul's ties with Tokyo amid these latest events. And for more on that, I have Professor LEE HEE-EUN at Handong Global University. Professor Lee, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I also have Professor Soeya at KEIO University live on the line. Professor Soeya, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Right, Professor Soeya, we'll start with you then. Let's begin with a few words on the results of Sunday's upper house election. I understand the results were largely expected, Professor.
Yes, I think it is. The LDP winning and its coalition partners, winning jointly, I think that was pretty much expected. But of course, one big factor was the assassination of former Prime Minister Abe shortly before the election day. And according to one, survey done by one of the TV programs, 13% of the respondents said they changed the voting because of the assassination of Prime Minister Abe. And perhaps LDP won more than, as expected beforehand because of this factor. But the end result, I think, was more or less, overall picture was more or less expected.
Right, and the fact you're talking about, of course, are the sympathy votes that played a pivotal part, of course. Professor E, pundits had linked Tokyo's earlier, perhaps reserved response to Seoul's efforts to boost bilateral ties to domestic politics, namely Sunday's upper house election. Now that it's over, do you expect a warmer stance, perhaps, from the Kishida administration to the Yoon administration's olive branch?
Yes, but as with most things related to Korea-Japan issues, obviously it's very complicated. And particularly, I think the complications, in this relationship with Prime Minister Kishida and Yoon administration is particularly, I think, the domestic political considerations in Japan. Now, obviously, before the election, I think there was some cooling of the initial entreaties made by the Yoon administration to warm up relations, particularly in the aftermath of the Moon administration, which was much cooler to a better forward-looking Japan-Korea relationship. But I think Prime Minister Kishida, with this election, obviously potentially has more to gain, obviously, with respect to holding his foothold within the party, and giving more confidence to himself, and as well as to lay out his priorities for this relationship. But I think the issue that Prime Minister Kishida will have to look at, of course, is with Abe's assassination. Obviously, there are elements within the LDP that want to challenge Korea, particularly on some of these issues that Korea has had with Japan. And so, even though Kishida may want to forward this relationship, Kishida has to, of course, look to people within his party and also the domestic consensus in terms of whether or not Japan should move forward in a positive-looking relationship. And also, you have to factor into the United States as well. The United States wants to have better relations between Korea and Japan. So I think all of these factors will take into consideration. But in the end, my expectation is that after this slow dance between the two administrations, that there will be warmer ties.
Right. And Professor Soeya, the Yoon administration, for its part, has launched an advisory group consisting of government officials and civilian experts charged with the task, of course, of finding a solution to the issue of wartime forced labor. Do you suppose such efforts will improve Seoul-Tokyo ties?
Well, it should be positive, of course. But as Professor Lee implied, I think the issue which is, of importance first and foremost is domestic politics on both sides. And I think the start of this panel, is first and foremost, again, it should be an issue of domestic, debates within Korea. And the case is the same back in Japan. How to respond to this new initiative. I think it's a huge political issue among different types of groups. And overall, of course, this is a good start. But this sort of action itself, I think, is not powerful enough to change the basic course of relations between the two countries over these very difficult, complex, so-called history issues.
Right, I see. And staying with efforts then to find a settlement to historical matters, Professor Lee, the 12-member advisory committee includes 2 lawyers representing the forced laborers. Could you tell us a bit about their demands?
Well, simply, I mean, because they're representing their own clients, they want to have direct negotiation with the companies involved. And so because they have a ruling in their favor here in Korea, basically their position is they want to collect compensation for their clients. And so in order to do that, they want to be able to have direct negotiations and work out some sort of compensation for their clients. But as we know, this is a complicated issue. This doesn't just involve, of course, just a local court case involving private parties, but this encompasses Japan-Korea relations. And because this is such a hot button political issue, not just within Korea, but as Professor said, in Japan as well, this has multi-dimensional levels that I think just beyond just the simple legal matter of just collecting compensation. So the lawyer's perspective really is simply to collect compensation and to extract as much as they can for their clients. But I think this is going to be more challenging. And I think the lawyers, of course, understand this. They know that it can't simply just get compensation from these Japanese companies. And so it'll be interesting to see what sort of pressure these lawyers and other civic groups within Korea may put on the government in terms of not backing down with respect to this particular claim of compensation.
Right, and staying with the compensation mentioned by Professor Lee, Professor Soeya, among the proposals is one that calls on Korean firms that benefited from Japanese loans and grants under the 1965 treaty, like POSCO, to make initial contributions to the compensation and then call on Japanese firms to take similar action. How feasible is this proposal, do you think?
Well, I remember that at one point some years ago that POSCO has been preparing to put some reserves, I mean financial reserves, in order to deal with this sort of problem, which was largely expected, and as you said, I mean Shin-Ldp'S helped POSCO to come to this stage of international and cooperation. And well, I once visited the Korean History Museum, Modern Republic of Korea History Museum near Gangwon. And one thing which struck me was there was virtually no display or mention of Japan's help South Korea modernize after diplomatic normalization. I understand the emotions, but the fact of the matter is totally different. And the Shin-Ldp'S helped POSCO, I think, pretty much in the course of Korean industrialization. And that company itself is now under fire because of the history problem. And as a Japanese, I feel a bit sorry about this sort of mismatch. But anyway, I mean, POSCO knows its history, and Shin-Ldp'S knows its history. And these two companies working together, I think, is a good thing, essentially. And it's up to the government, whether or not they're going to intervene in this, commercial sort of ties. Before, I mean, the Abe administration was not very enthusiastic about this evolution of, both companies working together. But I'm pretty sure Kishida has a somewhat different view on this, even though whether he can carry this out is another issue. But so there is hope and for these companies to take initiatives. But it may go back to the question of domestic politics again. Yeah.
Right. Professor, do you see Korean companies as taking on perhaps an active stance with regard to such contributions?
I think it really depends on sort of who you're talking to, because I understand the professor's comments a bit about the history of POSCO, of course, getting assistance from Japan in terms of the treaty itself and some grants, of course, in the past. But I think the current considerations, I think if you're CEO of POSCO, you have to consider, obviously, what Koreans are thinking. And I think this becomes, a particularly thorny issue with respect to contributions, because I think the civic groups and the lawyers want to demand that the Japanese companies themselves are the ones that pay out this compensation, not a Korean company, because Korean companies were not necessarily involved, of course, directly in forced labor. And so naturally, if you're a Korean company, you may think twice really about making contributions. But we don't know, of course, how the government's going to come down, right, on some of these issues and what pressure they may bring to bear on some of these companies to make these contributions. So I think it really remains to be seen about whether or not these companies will actually make these contributions in furtherance of Japan-Korea relations.
Professor, speaking within your capacity as a scholar in the field of law, what are your thoughts on the potential solution, perhaps, to this ongoing dispute between the two countries?
I think it's going to be hard because obviously the question is really it's a political issue. While on the legal end of things, you can make a compromise, you can make a contract, an agreement, you can settle this, of course, as a matter of law. But because this is such a huge political issue, I think the complications are enormous, and I think the risks, of course, from both sides are very, very high. And so when it comes to forging an arrangement, I mean, we've seen in the past that there have been sort of settlements. I mean, most famously in this country, the 2015 Comfort Women Agreement, which was hotly debated, hotly contested, and even though it was sort of a settlement of sorts from a legal perspective, potentially, but politics, of course, is going to play the biggest role in this. So whether or not a settlement is possible really depends on the politics of the time.
Right, and moving forward then, Professor Soeya, some say Tokyo's possible removal of restrictions on key export items to Seoul may actually serve to put on track efforts to boost ties. That being said, what are the chances of such a move by Tokyo?
Well, logically and rationally speaking, there should be no problem on the part of the Japanese government to move in that direction. I mean, the issue was not necessarily putting restrictions, on export, but removing South Korea from the so-called white country listing, and which made processes of export management very, very complex. But as I know, I think the negative impacts of those measures were almost gone at this time, and largely because of South Korean self-efforts, but sometimes in some areas, because of nature of economic dealings. And so putting South Korea back to the, white country listing, I think that should be an issue. And if dealt with, properly, again, it's a political issue and about economic dimension. And I think this is not impossible, but again, it depends on politics.
Right, and we'll keep our fingers crossed for that then. Professor E, the most recent accord between South Korea and Japan with regard to the painful plight of comfort women was reached in the year 2015. But some scholars say that that particular agreement was flawed from the start and that continued denials from the Japanese government undermine the spirit of that accord. Do you agree?
Well, I think if you look at the actual agreement itself, the text, or at least not the text, but at least the statements that were made when both Prime Minister Kishida and Foreign Minister Yoon made their announcement of this deal, that actually the Japanese government admitted that they were involved to some degree with respect to the plight of the comfort women. And so I think there was some direct responsibility taken by the Japanese government and sort of in the issuance of an apology to some degree. But the problem, of course, I think in the Korean side is that there was really no domestic consensus on this question. And particularly, the input of the comfort women themselves was never really addressed. And so this becomes, I think, the real question is the flaw in the agreement is insofar as it didn't take the victim's approach, or at least a victim-centered approach on this question, at least get their input and get their buy-in in terms of accepting this deal. But this is a government-to-government matter, and so the question now becomes is there the political will and also the potential the risks here for particularly the Yoon administration to push forward with this agreement and to accept it as final between the two sides. And so I think that is really the question that is going to be remaining with respect to this question, and naturally on the Japanese side, how they will continue to uphold their own responsibility for what happened during that time.
Right. Professor Soeya, as my foreign ministry correspondents have pointed out, Prime Minister Han Duck-soo is likely to attend the funeral of former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe this week, which quite a few believe, of course, that it's the least that a neighboring country can do to comfort a traumatized Japan and convey its condolences. Now, that being said, how does the untimely passing of Mr. Abe look to affect Japan and its future policies?
Well, for the time being, this particular point will continue to be the biggest factor in sort of looking at how Kishida administration will control not only domestic politics, but diplomacy, including Japan-South Korea relations. And the conventional wisdom before the election, and particularly before the passing of former Prime Minister Abe, was Kishida will gradually, step by step, try to sort of redress the imbalance of Japanese approach toward particularly Northeast Asia. And I think that fundamental sort of drive is there, but the passing of Prime Minister Abe made it more complicated. At least for a short while, I think Kishida will have to be very careful about, moving away from the legacies of the Abe period, which in effect would mean more sort of influence of this factor, Abe factor, upon Kishida for some time to come. It may sound somewhat contradictory, but I think that's going to be the reality. So I think from South Korean point of view, I think it is particularly important to appreciate this sort of paradox in the short term. But over the long term, I would expect things would come back to according to Kishida's sort of design and wishes. And, some elements of wishful thinking, but if we control politics well on both sides, I think that's not entirely impossible.
Right, and do you share these positive outlook, this very cautious positive outlook that is, Professor E, very briefly speaking?
Yeah, Professor Soeya, I think with Professor Soeya's points, I think are on point. I think there will be trust-building measures that will be taken by both sides, the Yoon administration and Kishida, to sort of build their trust between them. But naturally, these historical matters are going to pop up from time to time, and really how each country manages their domestic circles with respect to these issues will be very, very important. And I think the last thing to mention here is, what Kishida will do with respect to his new majority now in terms of consolidating his authority within the LDP. Will they go forward now and revise the peace constitution? I think that's the X factor here, and how neighboring countries, particularly with South Korea, will then react in that eventuality.
Right. All right, Professor E, thank you very much for your time and your thoughts. And Professor Soeya, thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you.
Welcome.